time once again for Catalog and Cocktails. It's your honest, no BS, non-salesy conversation about enterprise data management with tasty drinks in hand. I'm Tim Gasper, longtime data nerd product guy, joined by Juan Cicada. Juan, how are you?
Tim, how are you doing? It is always a pleasure to be in people's ears. This is pre-recorded. Honest no BS, we're pre-recording today. So we don't know when you're going to be listening to this, but I know people, they are always excited about the drinks that we're having. So I'm curious about when they listen, what time they're listening and what are they thinking about their drinks. But anyways, we'll get about the drinks in a second. I'm super excited today to have the one and only Jessica Zuñiga, who is the head of AI Readiness and Data Governance at BlueYeti. She's an adjunct professor at the Agate Business School, and she's also the vice president of education on the board of directors of the DAMA Mexico chapter. And frankly, she's one of the growing and most important voices of data governance in Mexico and in Latin America. And I think this is something that I've realized myself, that we, again, talk about bubbles that we talk a lot about. We're in our English bubble. And then I'm seeing wait, there is a rest of the world where English is not their main language. And even though it is a lot in Europe and in Asia, but a whole continent, which is all of South Latin America, South America, there's more voices out there. So I'm super excited to have Jessica here on the show. Jessica, how are you doing?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thank you. I am really, really excited and happy to be part of these guys. Honestly, Catalogs and Cocktails is one of the best podcasts I've ever heard. So really, really excited and looking forward to have this amazing and interesting conversation about data and AI governance with you.
All
I
right.
am going to have this. I am getting ready for my drink.
So tell and toast. So what are we drinking and what are we toasting
what you're drinking?
Yeah, I will have a 3B wine, which is one of the oldest vineyards here in Saltillo. I am currently located in Monterrey, Nuevo León, so this is one of the best drinks that you can have here.
I concur. I've discovered Mexican wine, and the 3V wine is a top-notch Mexican wine that I think everybody should really try out. Unfortunately, you don't get Mexican wine a lot outside of Mexico. So if you are ever in Mexico, yeah, you're going to get tequila and mezcal and that stuff, but go buy some wine for sure. Tim, what are you drinking today?
Unfortunately, I do not have wine. I know that lately wine is showing up more often on Catalog and Cocktails, which is cool. I had to grab something quick, so I've got some Talisker 10 here, which is very interesting. It's a little bit peaty, but also kind of sweet. And some people don't like that, but I find it pretty good. So that's what I'm having today. What about you, Juan? What are you having?
I'm having a classic gin and tonic, but actually I'm having for the first time trying this gin mar. And with an elderflower tonic water. This is such a classic drink, and then you realize that you can change with the gins and the tonics, and it changes a little bit. So, Jessica, what do you want to cheers for?
Well, I want to make a toast because next Friday I am having my friends from Colombia here in Monterrey, Nuevo León. So I am really, really excited because I am about to celebrate my 30s.
All right. Well, cheers to birthdays and celebrating with
congratulations.
Cheers.
Birthday
Thank
season,
you so
right,
much.
Juan?
Oh yeah. So, all right, one more question. So we're talking about enablement and talking about governance. So my question here is kind of a little bit complicated one, but what is something that you've been wanting to go do that you haven't done before, but you know that to do it, you kind of need to follow some rules, but it's okay if you don't follow the rules that well, but there's still some rules to the stuff. What is something like that you've been trying to go do?
Well, maybe it's not related to work, but related to my daily life. I have been trying to become fit and muscle, but then I noticed that since I am in data, sometimes I can eat at my times and sometimes I can eat, honestly, right? And then, you need to sleep, you need to don't have a lot of stress. So yeah, let's say that I am a little bit forgetting that crazy dream. But still, my husband is following that dream for us. But yeah, that will be my answer, Juan, for that.
That's a good one, right? Because there's actually rules. So, I mean, you follow some rules.
Exactly.
Well,
Eating and sleeping and taking care of the times. Yeah.
That's a good one. Tim, how about you? You got one?
You know what? I'm gonna key off of that a little bit because I'm also trying to make more time in my life for fitness, and I recently bought a bike. And I've been trying to watch YouTube videos and things like that because I'm hungry for cycling enablement because there's kind of a lot of weird quirks. Like how often am I supposed to check my tire pressure? And I bought some new pedals for my bike, and I was thinking that I could just like screw it off and put them on, and then I found out you have to have a very particular size hex wrench, and you have to turn it in a very specific direction. And anyways, I'm having to learn a lot, but it's fun. I'm enjoying it.
You see, this is fascinating because we realize that there's governance and basically all day-to-day stuff that we do it right, and I mean, yeah, it's sometimes we complain about it, but we know we need to go follow some of that stuff, right?
A lot of times it makes sense, right? Like, for example, on a bike, right? One of the screws goes one way and the other screw goes the other way because you're pedaling the bike. And if it was both facing the same way, one of them would be really loose and one of them would be super tight. So it's like stuff like that. It just makes sense, right?
Yeah. I think for me, it's one that I've been trying to go do, which I've been trying to go do for a long time and not doing it at all. It's just getting into more music, like playing guitar. And there's like, I've learned how to play a little bit, but there's more stuff I need to go follow and take. And there's a lot of learning to be done there. But all right.
Are we going to have a Juan concert in the
future? No. Right. Anyways, let's kick it off. Jessica, honest, no BS. Like, when is data and AI governance truly a business enabler?
Yeah, that is an interesting question, Juan, because most of the time, well, I really like to teach and to give conferences and conversations about data governance. But most of the time, when I ask this very first question at the very beginning is like, okay, what is data governance for you? That is the question that I always will do at the beginning of every presentation of mine. And everyone is going to answer like bureaucracy, control, procedures, policies, and that is honestly, that is not data governance. And it's funny because most of the time I am expecting to hear the people saying that, like, yes, control. Even 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, I was speaking in Mexico City, and that was the answer. And I was like, yes, that was the answer that I was looking, like bureaucracy and control and everything. But honestly, that is not data governance. Like, for me, it's completely a different definition, right? Because for me, it's like, okay, you need to make sure that you are delivering value to your business. And that is when you actually understand what the business is executing into your day-to-day operations. And then you enable anything for your people in your organization so that they can be success while managing and interacting with data, right? That is for me data governance and AI governance, not bureaucracy and control, but making your people to succeed in every day while interacting with data, right?
I think that's so important. And I love the way that you stated that the goal is to drive value, iterating with data. Why do you think people have it so wrong? Where did everyone get this idea that it's all focused on control and policing data?
Yeah, most of the time I feel is because, we are data people and we speak this technical language. We talk about data architecture and data engineering. And yeah, when we go ahead and talk about processes, we said, yeah, we had these beautiful ETLs and these pipelines, which are going to deliver you the most of value from your data. But honestly, only we as data people, we understand that language. And then imagine, as a data people, we have this knowledge and this experience in tools and technologies, and we are always, let's say, trying to keep studying and keep, updating on tools and technology. And then with that knowledge, we try to speak with the business. And that is wrong, right? Because the business is not going to understand our language. We understand our language. If I talk with you and with Juan, okay, you are going to understand me. But then if I go with an executive leader or with a C person in the organization and I start to talk about, yeah, we're going to make automations out of ETLs, and then we need to invest on this latest technology, which is going to hold your data platform. And they are going to say, and what does that mean, right? I think that is one of the common mistakes because we are thinking that they are going to understand our language. And sometimes we don't even understand what we are saying, right? And it's crazy because we're trying to convince others to make important investments. And then when they are asking the question, okay, and how do you make sure that that is actually going to provide value to the organization? You will say, well, I don't know, but that is the tool. You should invest in that. And yes, and how are you going to make sure that that investment is going to actually provide value to the organization? that's why I guess as a data person, we need to step forward and say, okay, yes, here is all the knowledge about data platforms. Here is all the knowledge about technologies and data and policies and procedures. But how do I make sure that my people, that my leaders, my executive leader from the organizations actually understand what the hell I am saying, right?
Oh my gosh, you just went off one of the most beautiful rants I've ever heard about people of just like get out of your freaking not even like our data bubble, get rid of our freaking technical data bubble out of this stuff and just um
The episode is done.
is that
Amen.
Mike, right, okay. This is a rant that many people have. Tim and I have done this so many times. We see so many people talk about this on LinkedIn. You beautifully did said that. I love this. Okay, now let's get over that rant. Like, how? I mean, you're professor, right? You're teaching students right this. How are you teaching them so they from like the new generation or people or how to get people outside the bubble to stop thinking that way?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I am a professor in the master degree of business and analytics. And then in that master degree program, I have students from business side and also from technical side. But when it comes to talk about data governance, since we are in Latin America, I will say like most of the resources that I'd learned are from the conferences that I have been attending in United States. So as you said, Juan, yes, we have resources and we know many interesting people here back in Latin America, but most of the resources talking about data governance, most of them are in English. So starting from that point, when I start to talk about data governance with my students from master degree, which again, they are from business side, and from data side, from data peers. Most of the time, I also have like directors of data, executive leaders of organizations in Monterrey and Mexico City from both places. And then I had to, I have this way of starting the conversation like, okay, we are going to talk about data governance, and I am going to look you directly in the eyes because I honestly want you to understand what am I saying. Because at the end of the day, all this knowledge, at some point, you are going to use it in your work. And then I start from that, like from understanding them, because at the very beginning of my courses, I really like them to introduce themselves, like in which company, which industry, like what is the current role that they are having right now in their organization. And starting from that, let's say that I try to start the conversation. Sometimes I have only business people, and if that's the case, it doesn't make sense to deep down into technical stuff because for them that is not going to provide value, honestly. But then in other groups, I have more data people, like leading actually the data architecture or data engineering stuff in their company, and with them I can go deeper. I'm talking about like data quality, data engineering, and any other stuff more related to their daily job. So let's say that I like to understand my my students. I really like to hear them and have these conversations because when I do that at the very beginning, then they are going to, talk to me and share what is the current data challenge that they are having. And also they are going to come with me and ask for advice because they know that I am here to honestly hear what they are doing right now and to give a good advice, and hopefully they can be successful in that.
I feel like a big part of what you explained there is around meeting people where they are. And if somebody is more technical, if somebody's less technical, you can tailor how you're talking to them. But what's important in both those cases is you're saying we need to understand them, right? Like what are their pains? What are they trying to do every day in their role? And do you find that when people share this with you, are they also sharing it with each other? And is it helping people when business people and technical people are talking to each other in your class and they learn about
Yes.
each other and where each other are coming from? How does that help?
Yeah, it's amazing because at some point, sometimes you have this student which is like really focused in the technical side, and is the student that believes that he has anything in control, right? Because he knows coding and he knows platform and he knows a lot of the stuff which right now is really important. But then you have this strategic professional and profile which is more focused on the business strategy And that for me is amazing because when we get to, have the opportunity to work as a team, well, they as a team in the classroom, it's amazing because they are sharing both perspectives, working as a team. Like, let's say that in the course, they have to deliver a final presentation, and the final presentation is about a real use case data governance program that they would like to implement in their organization. So let's say that they start since the very beginning. They start talking about what is the business strategy, what are the current goals and objectives, and then at the end they propose like what is going to be the data strategy that they want to implement, and what is going to be the first roadmap. And it's awesome because I had seen, these technical profiles and business profiles both like working as a team and delivering really, really great presentations, like amazing. And sometimes I am like really, really excited because I am like, oh my God, did I teach them that? Oh, that's amazing. Really proud of them. Yeah.
You know what is fascinating to think about this, or what's going through my head right now is, are we doing like the courses I see and stuff? Are we just doing that wrong because it's only one sided, or
Yeah,
it's not?
most courses, right, are we're going to create a class for the technical people and we're going to learn Python or something like that, right? And then you create a class for the business people and you say, oh, this is, IT management or something like that, right? But
There should be more cross collaboration,
yeah,
because even think about it, like there are CDO executive courses, right, and stuff, and these are people who are data professionals who've lived their entire life in data in tech world, right, but they are not coming from the business side. So then you get all these people who have been in that same bubble, right, and then right, then you look, people are taking data engineering courses and they just want to learn how data engineering. And I'm not saying we don't need to do that, but I'm just saying, but I'm only seeing that type of stuff. And so I'm actually wondering now, and this is going to call out for anybody who's listening, is like, where I'd love to learn more about different approaches and courses and stuff like what you're describing, Jessica, of like bringing up where you have people coming in from different sides, and you put them in the same room. And that's a course that at the end of the day, like, are these final products, they're joint products? If they work like cross collaboratively, they collaborate with different people on different sides, or is it or is it on their own? I'm curious.
Yeah, the EGATA Business School, it's a school for executives in administration, but they have this program which is master in business analytics. And let's say that these master degree programs combine the best of the two worlds, right? Like data and also the business executive part. And then yeah, most of my students are people that actually, like, I have a manager from operation, manager from the commercial side, VPs of operations, marketing as well, and then the data people. And most of them has this background in data, like they are trying to start doing like dashboards and reports in BI tools, for example. And then I have others that already know about some data platforms in the market. And yeah, so honestly, I feel like they already know that data is part of their lives and they want to boost those skills. So that's what they choose to study this program, because it's not only focused on technical stuff, but also in the business part as well. It's a really great program though. Yeah.
that's cool.
Oh.
I wonder how we can do some more of this cross pollination within companies, because I feel like a lot of cross pollination happens more almost accidentally, just as by the course of your job, like where you're like, who I need to know, I need to reach out to somebody in marketing, and you just try to find who that person is, and hopefully somebody's there to guide you and introduce you.
Or it
Yeah.
also probably happens at a higher level, and then it's like, go do this, and
Yeah,
then
maybe the leaders are
the
talking
leaders
to each
are.
other. Yeah, but there's probably more cross pollination we should be doing, and maybe this is part of the problem why we have such silos and why the data team is so separated from the business team. We actually need this to be more embedded and collaborative.
Yeah, and also, Tim, I would like to mention something very important, because something that I had noticed in these last years that I have been teaching this course is that when I speak of what data governance is to these, let's say, business roles, they got really, really excited. And they even will say like, yes, this is what my company needs. But I didn't know that that is data governance. And they got really excited. That's one of them. I could say I have this really nice ex-student, which his name is Christina Broadstrain. She's in an insurance company in Mexico City, and she was telling me, Jessica, I am going to start leading this data part in my company because as an insurance company, I want to start this. And she was like really, really excited. And since she already got some skills from the course, she was like looking forward for that. And that's amazing because before that course, at the very beginning, she was telling me, Jessica, I haven't heard anything of this. I feel like this is going to be hard for me. But after the course, for me, her presentation was the best. And I can tell you more examples of other business executives, leaders, as well as from other companies. And I can tell like, okay, yeah, they are from the business side and they got really, really excited. And that is awesome because that's one of the goals of my course, like trying to share with them the benefits and why they need data governance. Even at the very beginning of the course, I will say, after this course, you are going to be 100% convinced that data governance is what your organization needs.
I love that. I love that. Well, and Juan, we've talked in the past about, if governance is done right, it should actually be cool.
Yeah, and I think this is an example of that. Is that it's like, forget about the word governance because it already has a negative context. Let's forget about that stuff. Like, you just have there's all these problems the organization has, and you just want to be an enabler to be able to go achieve those things. And data is going to be part of that. Data is not the only thing; it's an important part of there. And at the end, you just want people to go say, if I give you this stuff, is that going to help you do your job? Like, yes. And I'm going to give it to you in a way that you can trust it. And by the way, if there's any issues, we can be able to go address that. And we're there where we're not going to leave you alone. Like, perfect. Yes. That's governance right there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's enabling you to make sure that you're going to ride your bike in a way that it's the wheels aren't going to fall off. Right, Tim? Because you don't want that to happen with your bikes. Right.
Yep, I don't.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
mhm.
that's what I always say is like, okay, you are supporting your people to understand how they need to behave when they are interacting with data. And it's funny because all the time we are interacting with data, right? All the time. Like right now, we are generating data.
So one of the things I'm interested, yeah, a spicy question here, but let's go in. So DAMA, you're part of DAMA, and I think people traditionally look at DAMA as like the old school, like of the DIMBOK, the book, right? It's like it's just too formal, and we have all these frameworks and policies to go do, and that's not really what we need to go apply. So it's kind of too theoretical. I'm curious, like, how are you seeing? I mean, you're part of DAMA, right? You're like, how are you seeing that the frameworks, the everything's presented there, and how is that being applied in practice in all the work that you're doing, you're teaching? What's working? What's not working? What needs to be changed? Like, I mean, I just want to kind of be more be open, honest, no BS, and critical about this.
Tools and frameworks and best practices. What's
Yeah,
working? What's
well,
not?
yeah, I will say that as a framework of reference, it's great, honestly, because for example, when I started my career in data governance or when I started in data, I was looking and when I hear data governance, the very first thing that I did was to search over internet, like, okay, what is the organization that could give me these credentials to be recognized as a data leader? Because back in that time, I was studying a master's degree in cybersecurity. And if you think about cybersecurity credentials, you will think about ISACA, for example, right? Which ISACA has these frameworks and everything, but about cybersecurity. But in that moment, I was like looking forward to have a certification about data and data governance. So I look over internet and I found DAMA. And for me, that was like, oh my God, this is really, really excited. Yeah, I need to look for that and I need to start studying and then I need to get my certification because I am like that. Let's say that I work like that. Like, okay, if I have a goal, then I need to achieve that goal. Right. So back in that time, I was like, yes, let's get started with the studying and then go ahead and get my certification. And I'm telling you this story because for me, DAMA was like the framework or the organization that give me the very first steps to start having somehow an idea on how data should handle and or how data should be managed, right? But at the end of the day, for me, when I speak about the DAMA to my students or to the people that I normally talk about data governance or data management activities, I will say, yeah, DAMA is just a reference. It's just a toolkit of good practices that you should follow in order to succeed, right? But that doesn't mean that you are going to open up the book and start, applying first chapter. Yes, I already finished the first chapter in my company. Let's go to the second chapter. That's not going to happen. That is not practical because at the end of the day in data, we have many, many things to do, right? And it will be funny to say, yes, I 100% have implemented the DAMA framework in my organization. That is not going to happen. And then also, in DAMA, you have these very basic concepts, but you want to learn more, then you need to go at the very finish of each chapter and you will see more information on where should you look at, right? And that's basically how I have been using this really great framework. But at the end of the day, I need more information, and that's what I have been able to meet, other peers, other data people around, like Robert Sainer, for example, and other like really nice writers back in United States, which I love, and I had learned a lot about data governance and data quality as well, for example. But yes, DAMA it's interesting, but only as a reference. Still, the data governance definition that they have, I don't I don't agree 100% because the very first word that says exercise of authority and control over management of data assets. That word control, maybe I will delete that because I don't agree with that. Yeah, but as
Mhm.
a reference, and I am in Mexico. So for Mexico, we need like standards and frameworks and procedures sometimes. Most of the things that the people will say here, yes, is what is the framework that you're following? Or how are you suggesting that this is the right way? And then you'll say, yes, because I have my DAMA book. Here is my DAMA book. And then you can follow the definitions. But that is something that is supporting what you are defining, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that I will say that.
interestingly, Dama's actually starting to do the next version of their book, and they're starting to
Yes,
do a call for collaborators and things like that. So I have a feeling that they're
exactly.
going to hear this feedback more than once, that the word control is giving people the wrong idea around governance, and they probably should change that. It should say like driving value and enablement around data or something like that, right?
I know.
Totally agree with you, Tim.
I,
Yeah,
I, I appreciate how you bring up the cultural aspect. Is that
Hmm.
for a lot, like people's like, for some other folks in some other culture, they'll say like, wait, but like, what are the other people, the other leaders are doing, and they want to have that reference around that. So it's a way of presenting that reference, but also it is true that like sometimes you do hear people or kind of an expectation like you got to follow the plan here. I'm like, no, I really appreciate that
Yeah.
call out that implementing 100% the DAMA framework is not something anybody does. It's a realistic. I mean,
It's
it's
just giving
impossible.
you a set of tools, right? And I think the way you explained that, Jessica, was very helpful because it reminds me of when I think of product management. You can become a certified Scrum product owner and a certified Scrum master and things like that, right? And if you talk to somebody who's an experienced product manager, you don't measure how good they are at their job based on how perfectly they subscribe to Scrum methodology, right? It's based on the value that they're providing by building the right product for the right customers and for the right users. And so it feels like something very similar with governance is that you have these tools, they help you, they provide you a compass, they provide you the tools of the trade, but then you have to actually drive sort of broader change.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah, that's right.
when you have.
Yeah, and
Sorry, no, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go
yeah, I
ahead.
just want to mention that, for example, when you are studying in data, like back in that days, like, I used to write like a lot of code in Python. And sometimes back in that organization, I was thinking, yeah, why are we using these very complex tools? We have Python. Why don't we use Python? Why don't we use Python for every ETL and integration in the company? I was thinking like that. But then when I started to read the DAMA book, I understand, because at the end of the day, if you don't manage to put some specific controls in place, then you're going to have many versions of the one ETL, but none of them is going to work. So that's what I started to understand. Yes, okay, yeah, that's why this company have that very old tool to to create the ETLs and the integration. That's fine. And then you know what happened with Python and everything, right? But that is just an example of when I was starting my career in data and in DAMA as well. Like um, that framework was like really, really, really helpful because it helps me to understand like the value of data, but not only the data itself, but the value of managing in the right way the data.
You know, I think this is an important call out here that you have these frameworks are put in place, and you can see them again, like what you're saying, for product management, for software development, here for data management, for governance. They're there to kind of provide those guardrails so you don't end up doing just wasteful, kind of wasting your effort around things, right? I mean, at some point people can take it to pedantic, and I think that's kind of when the pendulum swings on one side. On the other side, then they're very kind of open, and then that's when the shit hits the fan, and then things. I mean, it happens for product, it happens for software. Imagine developing software without any good, without using GitHub
Yeah.
and CI/CD
And we need
practices.
some common definitions for things, right? If I talk about data quality and you talk about data quality, but we're way off from each other, that makes things really hard.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm curious about just to dive a little bit specifically in some of like these frameworks and these references. What are the things that you can talk to about that either people that you can take a little bit loose when it comes to a particular framework, or people can actually go very specific and they can end up being too pedantic, being too rigid. Like, because at the end of the day, we need to have these frameworks. I'm curious to know, like, if you have share any examples or use cases about following some sort of frameworks in a loose or loose or rigid manner, like how that is again generating the business value. That even if you did not have that framework, it would be chaos.
Yeah, I can give you an example, Juan. Like, let's say when you have this background of frameworks, like you understand, like for example, ETL, or for example, framework from Isaka, or framework for DAMA. In my personal experience, as I told you, I am someone that will be always studying and learning new things, and part of that is also getting to know these frameworks. And I would like to tell that, for example, I have an opportunity to work before in Linde, and in that company, I was working in the digitalization area. And for that, I had the opportunity to, let's say, start designing the very first steps of the data strategy back in that time. And it was a really important for me because at the end of the day, I was making presentations to managers and then to directors and to vice presidents. And they are people like more older than I. So for that kind of profiles, you need to talk. And in this huge and very important company, which is Linde, for that company, the way that you speak, the way that you behave, the way that you make presentations and how do you support those presentations for them, it's very, very important. And back in that time, let's say that I started that effort in data governance and data management. And then I was literally looking at my ETL framework and my DAMA framework and any other resources. Back in that time, I was 24, 25, and I was making presentations to managers and vice presidents. And I was speaking with people from Europe, from Brazil, and all of them will say, Jessica, we really like your strategy. We want to do that in Alemania as well. In Germany as well. And that was like really interesting because, back in that time, I barely have information about data governance. I was like literally like trying to create something, like following the book and then making these presentations. But since I was using the right words and I had the right supporting materials, I was succeeding in that. And it was a really nice, let's say, experience because, as I said, I was 24, 25, working in this company. And then imagine, sometimes I have the opportunity, no, not sometimes, many, many times I have the opportunity to make presentations to the data manager back in that time. And he was literally telling me at the very beginning, like, oh, so you're telling me that I have been doing wrong my job for the last 20 years? That was my very first presentation with him. But then, as I moved forward with the presentations, he was supporting me and he was saying, yes, go ahead and do whatever she says. And that is awesome. And as I said, they were older than I. And for them, the frameworks and methodology matters, right? Because, and also it's a huge and large company, so it matters most, right?
How do you make it relate though? Because I know sometimes when you bring a framework to somebody and it can be well supported by evidence and things like that, but it can still feel foreign to somebody who is not used to thinking about and talking about that. Is there a way that when you were talking to these leaders and things like that, in addition to just having your material down, like how did you find that you could get it to resonate with them, like in addition to just getting the facts right?
Yeah, well, I feel I have this way of, let's say that the people is going to trust in me because I am always like open to hear
Mm.
like what are the needs they have. So I started to go with the manager or supply chain, for example, and then with the in that back in that time was the business process people from supply chain, and the supply chain for that organization was, and it is really really important right now actually. So I started to, have these conversations with people from finance, from supply chain, from business areas, and I was, understanding what their current data needs are. My that manager back in that time, I have this manager Gerardo Moya, which right now is a really really great friend, and with him. Like we design also what, let's say, the digitalization process to start executing data projects in each business area. So let's say that I started by listening of what their needs are in terms of data. And then also I was doing this presentation with them, like, okay, this business case, like, okay, you're saying that you need this in terms of data. Okay, you're saying at the end of the day, you need a data model, for example. And I was, very willing and open to share my data knowledge to them, like, but in a way that they can actually understand. Because it does, as I said earlier, it doesn't make sense to speak a lot of things about data governance and data platforms and technological stuff if no one is going to understand you. So what I feel is like, okay, understanding your people, understanding what they are saying, understanding what their needs are, and then make sure that you provide a solution. But now, having these proposals around how data can improve what they are doing in theory day to day, right?
Jessica, it's very clear that you are somebody who, what I call this, the analogy that goes up and down the elevator from the strategic, from the penthouse where strategy is done to the engine room where the data work is happening. What How did you get there? Like how did you feel comfortable going up and down like this, talking to different people, different levels, and what's your suggestions for folks trying to go do that? Because I've seen this pattern. I think uh, not to toot our own horn, but Tim and I think consider ourselves people like that. Um, and I think we that yeah, I think it's like a missing link within organizations, and people are out there who are doing this, or they're very close to that. They just need a little bit more of kind of guidance. Like, what's your suggestion about like how people can become more comfortable going up and down this elevator that I talk about?
I will say that the very first advice will be like, okay, make sure that you are doing what you like the most. Like you should really, really enjoying what you are doing. For me, I love data. So when I need to talk about data to a student or to a director or to someone that is owning a company, I can switch the conversation because I love data. And that will be like the very first advice. Make sure that you are doing what you actually love as a professional, right? That will be the very first. And the second one is, since you are actually enjoying what you are doing, you should be able to make sure that anything that you are going to deliver in terms of your professional career, you need to make sure that it provides value to others. Because what's the point of investing your time in something that you are not enjoying? And worse, in you are not enjoying that, and then since you are not enjoying, you are not going to provide most of the value of what you are executing with this person. And then I will say, be kind, be open to hear, be open to have deep conversations around what are the problems that these business people or data people are having right now, so that you are able to connect with these people and then be able to provide advices and value, right? That will be my answer, Juan. Yeah.
This goes back to some. I've said this again. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I think a constant theme that comes up now in the many years we're doing the podcast is the whole notion of being, what I'd summarize here as being empathetic with people. I think this is, and not, it's not
Exactly.
just data, I think it's just in general in life, but I think one of the struggles that people in data will have is because frankly we're probably not that empathetic. And going back to our earlier point is like, we're talking in our language and like, I expect you to go do this thing, and I'm like, well, you're not. And this is why I have a whole kind of I'm not that a big fan of the whole data literacy kind of way how it's presented, because like it's implying that you don't know data. You need to learn data so you can be, because you're not like me, who I know data, and like that you're not meeting people where they are. And I think it's a kind of even though it's not the intention, it can be perceived as a lack of empathy. And I think it's some of these quote unquote simple things to go do, but and I don't want to call this the soft skills. I'm calling out. I'm not calling soft skills just to remind people that that's what a lot of us we say. These are really the strong skills. This is what makes us stronger.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and also Juan, I would like to add, like, okay, we are in data. We have many, many opportunities, right? But at the end of the day, we are persons and we all have the needs, and we all at some point need support from someone else. So don't forget that, right? We have many, many skills, yes, a lot of opportunities, but it's important to to keep this humanity in us, because that is going to do this differentiator as a professional and as a person. And I feel like that is what is going to create this image around ourselves to other people, right? We are here to support each other at the end of the day. Yeah.
Well, I think this is a lovely way to close out this discussion here. Jessica, let's go into our lightning round. We got a couple of questions here, so I'll kick it off. Question number one: should everyone in an organization be doing or be part of data governance, or is that only
Yes.
really first? Oh, okay, that's good.
Yes, definitely. I will say, if you use data in your daily operations, of course. If you don't use data, then maybe not. But that's funny because everyone is using data right now. Yeah.
Everyone should be using data. All right,
Yes.
second question. Imagine that you're coming into a company and you're starting a governance program. Let's say it's new, right? Who should you talk to first as the governance leader?
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to talk with the board in the organization. That is the easy way to answer that question. But also, it's important to understand who is trying to start the data strategy efforts in the company, and then also trying to understand what is the current business strategy, and then trying to start talking with the people in charge of that business strategy. So yeah, it's an important question, but at the end of the day, I guess is like you need to find the guy that has this, at some point, this power in terms of data in the organization, and try to support this guy. For example, in my experience, I had the opportunity to support one friend here in Monterrey, and he was telling me like, yeah, I am going to start the data governance program, and I don't know how, but I am going to do it. And I was like, it doesn't make sense to do it by your own. You need to go ahead and speak with the board of directors, and then present the idea and present the benefits. And after that, then you're going to succeed. And he was, no, but they are always busy. They don't have time for that. I am going to support you. And then we made some presentations. And then the whole board of directors was convinced that data governance is what the business needs, right? So I started like that. So I will say that let's start with that guy, with the one that is trying to, accomplish or to be successful in data in their organization, and support that guy and boost that guy, and give him all, materials and anything, so that he can succeed along with the organization. Yeah.
I love that. We added a whole new dimension to this episode because we didn't really talk about the power dynamics, and I think that's a really quick and great way to explore finding the people with power and passion, supporting them, and then making sure you have support from the board, because governance is not something that works very effectively if you're off on your own as a lone wolf or in a silo.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, next question. Can a data governance leader be successful if they don't understand the technology?
I don't think so, to be honest, because for me, you need to have this business understanding and this technology and platform understanding as well, because that's the only way to make sure that you are, making the right decisions on which tools are going to support your business strategy as well. So yeah, you need to at some point understand technology. Yeah.
Well stated. And then last question, would you advise that people who want to get into governance get certified?
Of course, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, in like at least in data architecture platforms, for example, and ETL. Yeah, you need to understand the current data landscape. So yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, check out, for those that are interested, check out DAMA.
All right,
Yes.
takeaway time. Tim, take us away with takeaways.
All right. Well, we started with the honest no BS question. When is data and AI governance truly a business enabler? And you honed in right away after we asked that question on, hey, when I talk to people, they have this wrong impression. And perhaps in places that don't get exposed to as much kind of governance content all the time, because later you mentioned that a lot of the governance content, especially some of the newer content around enablement and things like that, is it's an English language and an English audience, right? That there's this dominant view that governance is around control, bureaucracy, policies, procedure, red tape, and honestly, it's that's the initial impression everywhere. And your response to that is no. It's about enabling people to drive value and iterating with data. And why? Because we're data people. We get all worked up about technology and the frameworks, and we have this wonky language. And if we don't talk to each other and collaborate and be iterative about it, then we won't actually get traction. And so that's where the rubber meets the road, is this collaboration, this talking, this listening. And I think that's a theme throughout the episode today. When they ask, how does this help the business? You can't say, I don't know. That is not an acceptable answer. How do we get people outside this bubble? And you're a professor, and so you're working with students and other teachers on how to help people overcome this. And you said that students are on the technical side, some of them are on the business side. That you have these people introduce themselves to you and what their role is, and start the conversation by understanding each individual and what it is that drives them. What is their daily job? What is their current data challenge? And not
Hmm.
just share that with you, but share it with each other. And it's allowing them to understand where each other are coming from, meeting people where they are. And then when you have the opportunity to do this and marry these different perspectives together, it unlocks more. And you mentioned that in your final presentations, when these kind of multidisciplinary, multi-perspective teams come together, they do better, right? And they're able to cover strategy, business goals, business objectives, data strategy, data roadmap, data goals. You're able to do all of it when you bring that multidisciplinary team together. So that cross-pollination becomes really important, and they learn what governance is really supposed to be about, which is about people and value. So Juan, what were your takeaways?
Well, I love that we got into the whole DAMA, and right, the question was like, are things too structured? What's working? What's not working? And the honest hope is like DAMA is just a really great frame of reference, right? And so
Hmm.
what is it? That's the most important. It gives you some goals and focus. It's not a playbook that you go do chapter by chapter. It's not you say I've implemented 100% of the DAMA framework. That no one has said, because that is completely unrealistic.
Hmm.
And then there's other things to consider around frameworks. Like we talked a lot about culture in this episode, right? Different companies have different cultures, something more formal, less formal, different age differences will imply a lot about this stuff, right? And by leveraging these frameworks like DAMA, you can drive alignment faster with leaders, especially valuable when you're earlier in your career or in life, basically, right? And another kind of framework to put around this is like be open and empathetic to the needs that you have, and combine. It's about being listening and understanding people, meeting them where they are. And I like an example of what governance is. Like people think about it as like, hey, I can just do everything. Why do I have all these tools that it doesn't? I don't understand why I have these tools. I could just do things quote unquote easier if I can just write a bunch of Python or whatever. But if you don't have some controls in place, some guardrails around this, then things can go crazy and have a free for all. And that is governance. It's also to be able to avoid that whole free for all. And we close with like, it's very clear how you're somebody who can go up and down that elevator from the engine room to the strategy penthouse. And how can other people get to that? And I loved your advice, which is one, make sure that you are doing what you love the most. That's the number one thing. If you're in this you love data, that's great. And since you're doing what you really love, then make sure that you're providing value to others. And then with that, just be kind and open and listen. And don't forget that we're technologists working data, but we're also humans. We're people too. So anything we missed?
No, I think that's it.
Well, so to wrap up, 3 final questions. What's your advice? Who should invite next? And what resources do you follow?
Well, my advice as a teacher will be keep learning, keep moving forward, keep following your professional dreams. Oh, 3 advices. So sorry for that.
Yeah.
And who should we invite? Well, I have this really nice friend, which is Chandra Donaldson. She is the Chief Analytics and Artificial Intelligence Officer at the United States Space Force. She's awesome. She has this, let's say that we are friends because she had both this initiative on sharing data no matter what, and she has the really nice data detective book. So you should definitely talk with her because her mission in life is really awesome. Yeah. Chandra Donaldson. That's
Cool.
her.
And then what resources do you follow? We know DAMA is one of them for sure.
And the data
Of
detective book
course.
we now know about.
Yes. Well, I follow, of course, DAMA, and then I follow also Dataversity, and also I follow some peers from LinkedIn like Juan Sequeda and Tim Gasper, of course. And then I have Robert Sainer and many other resources. Like I have many books here, honestly. Like for data quality, I have Danet. And she has her book of 10 steps for executing data quality projects. And then from Taylor, I have telling your data story. And then from John Latley, I have data governance, how to deploy and execute the data governance program. So yeah, at least you can start with those resources. And if you need more resources, you can reach out to me.
Awesome. Jessica, this was such a fantastic episode because we went through from teaching to frameworks to your initial honest no BS rant from the beginning, where you could see your face getting red. So you got, if you're listening to it, you go find the video, just go see her. Thank you for such a well-rounded episode of so much valuable insights. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, Jessica.
Cheers.